Please do excuse the look. Don't be frightened. If, I just want to do a very quick video. I've just had a heated exchange. Well, when I say heated, I was very measured actually. I was very calm on the circumstances. But I've spent, all right, so I was meant to go with my sister today for a hospital appointment. But I don't need to go any further than that. I mentioned that on a previous video. So what happened was I said it on the previous video, so you'd have to go and listen to that if you're interested. But because I view most people as idiots, and you mustn't look at me and think that I think I'm better than other people. Facts are facts, and I'll come back to that in a second about facts. I don't give a damn that because you're a qualified medical professional, and others revere you. I don't care about your qualifications or your status. If you're an idiot, you're an idiot. And if I recognize that I am dealing with an idiot, then I'm going to treat you like an idiot. So I was very patient because instead of me going to the appointment, I've got this on my face and I'm doing my hair as well, right? So this is going to be me up until 5 o'clock when I need to get ready to go to visit my sister at the hospital. So anyway, I knew about this appointment from last week, and I'm somebody, I prepare in advance, right? Because my time is precious. So I called the hospital yesterday, the one where she needs to have the appointment, to check, because I'd heard with this coronavirus nonsense that they weren't they weren't allowing people from outside, but they were going to try and make a special case for me to go. But this hospital where my sister is at the moment, let's put it this way, if I sue them, I would win. But I don't have time for that kind of thing, because they are so incompetent. The word incompetent is sort of being complimentary to them. So they didn't get back to me until last night to say, oh, you're going with your sister to the hospital. But by that time, I'd already in the daytime contacted the hospital to check with them whether I would be able to go or not, because I was just going to make my way there. So the person who I spoke to at the hospital where my sister is, I said to her, I spoke to the hospital, the other hospital, the appointment hospital, and I was told that I'm not allowed to go because people from outside aren't allowed to go. Now, being a very practical person and thinking ahead, I thought to myself, I think she mentioned that maybe I could wait outside or something. Now, in the waiting outside, how am I to know? Say for example, because it could be, when you've got an appointment and you're having tests and all sorts of things. How do I know how long I'm going to be there? How do I know that I'm not going to need to use the toilet? And if I need to go to the toilet, they're going to say to me, sorry, you can't use the toilet. You see, so I think about all of these things in advance, right? So irrespective of everything, I was aware that sometimes things, there is such a thing as short notice, and somebody might get in touch with me to say, you can come after all. So it's gone beyond 10:30 now. Obviously, the appointment was for 10:30. So you would have thought that they would get in touch with me with enough time for me to organize myself to get there. So I did one video. I finished that. I go into the bathroom to do this because I'm going to be doing like this deep treatment on my face today. And I'm in the process of doing my hair, so I've applied whatever the oil and things that I've got on there, so I can condition it. And I've still got a bit of oil on my hand when I hear my phone ringing, and it's the appointment hospital at 10:40 calling me, asking me if I can come. Now I checked the journey, and it's going to take me at least an hour and a bit to get there. So I asked the woman who I was speaking to, I think she was another doctor, I asked her what time. She said they weren't ready as yet to see my sister. So I said, well, it will take me more than an hour to get there. So she said, oh, we wouldn't have time, you wouldn't get here in time, so would you mind doing it on speakerphone? So cutting to the chase, I'm on speakerphone listening to them, and I don't care, as I said, I don't give a damn what your qualifications are, how high your status are. If you're an idiot, you're an idiot. So I recognize that I'm dealing here with idiots. And I'm not going to go into the details of it, but it culminated with the second. I spoke to, it was in two stages. So I spoke to one, and then they were going to call me back. They called me back. So I spoke to the top doctor, and, people trust in their status. Now, because the way I am, I'm not going to respect you. I've said this 1,000 times. I'm not going to respect you because of your status or because of how you value yourself via your status. So this doctor, female, was she was doing the small talk thing on me. And I said, because I'm getting very impatient, because to me, I'm just hearing nonsense. I will come back to that in another video at some point, I am sure, when I come to talking about natural remedies and why I've got fantastic health, right? Because I believe in preemptive medicine as opposed to get sick and then go and see what the doctors can do for you. This is why I've got fantastic health and have not needed to see a doctor for many, many years. So she's talking, and she's asked my sister a question. Now, I know my sister very well, and if you ask her something, she's going to give you an answer in that moment. So I said to her, she's there, I'm on speakerphone, she can hear me. I said, you don't have to make a decision now. You can think about it, and then you can get back to them. So this doctor, they don't like when you step over them. But like I said, I'm dealing with an idiot. When I say an idiot, I mean in that moment I'm dealing with an idiot, right? So I would put, even though I'm not a medical doctor, which I kept stating to them, I have no qualifications in the medical field. I know more about health than you do, which is why I don't need to come and see a doctor. Why I don't need to come and see somebody like you. And they don't like that because they have a job to do. That's a bit like an undertaker. If nobody dies, then they're redundant. So they need people to die. Doctors need people to get sick, right? So they need a constant supply of sick people. So I'm not going to go into anything here, but I've got my views, and I know what I'm going to say to my sister when I get to the hospital this evening. But the long and the short of it is, this doctor said I wasn't being helpful, and asked my sister, is there anything that she wants to say to me, and then said she was going to end the conversation, and then she ended the conversation. Now, there's a lot of ego involved. I am no nonsense. I am a no nonsense person. Whereas doctors have a checklist because they have no inspiration. There is no God in them because they are God as far as I'm concerned. And it's like you can't have two, even if you say you believe in God, you can't have one foot in one camp and a foot in the other one. While I was having a conversation with God, I was sort of like, ever so often we arm wrestle. And it's a long story, so you wouldn't get it if you don't get it, you won't get it. But from time to time we arm wrestle. So we're there arm wrestling, and I posted briefly on Facebook about what I've just said with regards to them asking me, can you come? So I was about to come off Facebook when I noticed a post from, there are people, right, there are people who I find people who are not very intelligent are the ones who trust in their intelligence most of all. So it was an unintelligent post. Rather, it was a religious meme, and let me see if I can remember what it says. It says something. Oh gosh, I wish I could. all right, so basically it's facts are facts. Work with me, I can't remember word for word. Facts are facts, but if some, oh gosh, I can't remember it, but it's basically saying that faith triumphs over facts. So your faith is worth more than facts. So I laughed, obviously, because God showed me that. And I've said before, God likes to showboat. He likes nothing more than to humiliate people who trust in their own intelligence. So, of course, I shared that in that moment. But then I went back and I edited and I said, correct. Faith is faith, yes. But, gosh, come on. Elizabeth Young, use your brain. So, no, I said, if you're dead, you're dead. But can God raise the dead? Right? Because if you're dead, you're dead. That's a fact. Can God raise the dead? Right? So if God can do all things, if God can do the impossible, things that are not scientifically possible, right? Then, you see, I come entirely from a perspective of God. Therefore, if I want God to do something, I'm going to, and not because I want it, not from a selfish perspective. If I want a result from God, I'm going to go to him and reason with him. Right, so the thought that came to me was the passage in the Bible where God is going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And Abraham, who had that kind of relationship with him, asked him, if there be, I won't go into the figures, you can find it yourself, but it's sort of like, if there are 5 righteous people in the city, would you save it because of those 5 righteous people? And God says to him, yes. So you can actually go to God and reason with him and make deals with him and all sorts of things. And I said in a previous videos with regards my singing voice, where God took it away from me and he wrestled me into a situation where I made a promise because I was so desperate to get it back because I had to sing the next day at church, rather the next morning. And he put me in a position where I was so desperate to get it back that I made a promise. And I said, if you give it back to me, I promise I won't be afraid to use it again. And I kept my promise. Now, the thing that people don't realize, you can't be in 2 separate camps at the same time. You can't have one foot for God and the other foot for science. It's when I say for science, I'm not going to explain that because you should have enough intelligence to know what I'm talking about. So in other words, you can't believe that God can do miracles, God can heal you, and then you're looking at the doctors who don't know what the hell they're doing. They've got a checklist and they're going, no, it's not that, no, it's not that, no, it's not that, no, it's not that. I said this to the doctor, I said I deal with practicalities. I don't try to rule out what it is. I try to find out what it is. Right? So I'm not going to go and say, well, it's not that, it's not that. Not by the power of deduction, it's not that. I'm looking to find out what it is. And the problem with these medical professionals and other professionals, to my frustration, is there is no God in their thinking. It's all man. There is no God. And God makes you more intelligent. You take the bull by the horns. You just get on with it. You don't have to sit there trying to work things out. You will get the inspiration that you need in that moment, and you can make the decision, and you just go ahead and you get things done. It's all to God is very practical. So when you have, in my situation, when I'm having to deal with impractical people, so you're going to ring me up 10 minutes after the appointment should have started and ask me if I can come. That's not my style. I'd organize myself so I could be clear. I didn't know how long the appointment would take. I'd organize myself so I could have today off, so I could go to the hospital in the morning and get back here at whatever time I needed to. But when you're dealing with incompetence, that's what happened. That's what happened. So in the end, like I said, we ended up doing the thing on speakerphone, and then it ended abruptly. I know all this information will get back to the other hospital, so when I get back there tonight, it will be interesting to see what the reactions are. because I pointed out the fact there were certain things that went on, and just the way they conducted themselves. And between both hospitals, there was somebody there with my sister. One of the medical staff accompanied my sister to the hospital. So that person at least will go back and say exactly what I said, and they would have heard my tone of voice as well. But it's one of these things. If you if you have higher knowledge, if you're in a better, if you're better positioned to get information, and there is no greater source of knowledge and inspiration. Yes, you can go to medical school and learn to be a doctor and get your qualifications. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about inspiration to help you to do your job. Like at the moment, where is it? At the moment, I'm doing these cushions here, right? So it's got a trim on it. So a lot, this job that I do, I didn't go to university. I started off because at school I used to make my own clothes because I didn't want to be wearing what others are wearing, and it's not because of anything. It's just I'm just uniquely Elizabeth Young, and so I started off making my own clothes. And then when I left school, I didn't know what I wanted to do as such. Well, I kind of knew, but that wasn't feasible. And I ended up sewing, and I've graduated. Like I said, I've learned on the job. So I didn't go and get professionally trained, because what I noticed with people who are much less skilled, the standard of their work I wouldn't recommend. They've been to school to learn how to do soft furnishings, and so they've got the qualification in their head, but they are crap at sewing. Right, so I come across this type of people with that sort of mentality. For example, you'll get interior designers, and they've got it in their heads, high status, I'm an interior designer. But you go and ask them how to estimate fabric, they don't know. Nobody taught me how to estimate fabric. Nobody taught me how to do anything that I'm doing. Nobody taught me how to make cushions. These are things that I figured out. In the same way nobody taught me how to make clothes. These are things, if you are interested in doing something, God, who is the source of all knowledge, will, if you're interested, God will take an interest. He's not going to take an interest in anything that you're not interested in. Right, so I am so fired up that there's things that I could say that, but I don't want to sort of go down that route as yet. There are things that are going to start happening in society. At that point, that's when I will go live. That's when you will hear me in the raw. But I happen to think, all right, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, because you always see me looking like this. I've always got something on my face and, dressed, never dressed up. So what I'm going to do, if you want to see pretty pictures, I'm going to put the link to my Instagram so you can have a look at how I look when I'm dressed up. Because this is another thing. I've never explained why I do the videos as I am. The reason is, it's not about, you're not supposed to be looking at what I look like. You're supposed to be hearing what I'm saying. So if I'm saying, if by the way I look, it's going to put you off listening to what I have to say, that's you're tough. One of the things I used to say to people with regards Jesus, because you get these religious people who claim, oh no, I would never have rejected Jesus. But the way they treat one another and people they view beneath themselves, oh yes, they would. So I would point out, again, this was by inspiration. A lot of all the clever things that I say come from God. This was by inspiration to say that the reason why Jesus came in the guise of a carpenter was because people who are stuck up would reject him. If he'd come dressed, as a rich king or somebody influential, of course everybody's going to listen to him and take on board what he's saying. But if you can sit here and see me looking like this, and you can take on board what I'm saying, well done. You wouldn't have rejected Jesus. Not that I'm putting myself in that kind of category. I'm just saying that it's not about how people present themselves. So this is me going back and talking about doctors and scientists and people of high standing. Just by virtue of what they do and their qualification, people will give them respect. And yet some humble person could come along. I talk about something like this in my book as well. A humble person could come along declaring truth, and they would just completely ignore them because they don't like how they the presentation. They don't like the look of the outer man. So that's what I would say. Like with Jesus, I joke sometimes, frequently in the past, when I was doing the church thing, that the people miss the point of the carpenter. Yes, he could have come disguised or in the form of a rich, important person, but then that would have gone over heads, because everybody would have embraced him because of the look, the outer man, rather than take heed to what he was saying. So I am going to put the link to the Instagram so you can look at the pictures, and then you can see what I look like when I'm dressed and when I'm looking presentable. But so you see, so this, I've said that for the reason, and I said this in a previous video, that when I go to the hospital, I'm just dressed sort of like with my camouflage and whatever, and I'm sitting there. But I know that if I was all dressed up nicely and look important, they would speak to me in a different way. No, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to have regard for people, irrespective. You don't look at someone and say, oh, I can overlook them because they're nothing, based upon appearances. And this is what gets people into trouble, right? So I should think when I get to the hospital this evening, there's going to be a different kind of energy. I will see if the doctor's going to grace me with his presence or something. Anyways, see you later. Back to work.